everyone, this is Autumn93 and this is my third and hopefully final video on fairy godmothers, house elves, and hobbits. And today I'm going to start by talking about the hob. Um, hobbits, you can tell that there are going to be some similarities between these two beings. The hob, if if he does not live in your house or someone's house, um, lives in a hob hole. Hob hole, hobbit hole, same idea. A round hole in the earth. And they do keep it clean. And for any of you who have read The Hobbit, you know how the book starts. That the hobbit lives in a hobbit hole. Um, and keeps it clean and it's comfortable and all that. Um, I don't remember the exact first sentence right now, but I just thought it's just the perfect description of a hob in a hob hole. Hobbit hole, hobbits, hobbit, yeah. Yeah, so very, very similar. Um, the The folklore and fairy tales of the hob, I believe, originated in northern England and parts of Ireland that are on the border there. Um, and that seems to be the case with many of the fair folk fairy tales and folklore kind of cross over between northern England and the boundary there between Ireland and England. That area seems to be very rich in folklore about the fair folk. Um, so hobs, they are little people, like brownies and all the other, well, not all the other, but most of the other house spirits. Um, they like to eat. Just like a hobbit does, they like to eat pretty much all the time. Um, and they also like alcoholic beverages, and they like to party. They will take up residence in a basement or uh, cellar area where there is wine or bar area. Um, if not, then they will take up residence in a closet. But it's normally they like to pick up the alcohol. If you don't have alcohol in your house, that's fine. If you want to have them around, you can always um, keep your pantry full of good food. Um, and I think also that they will take offerings of food, um, just out of friendship, but they also will sneak around and take items of food if you leave them out. So, like if you leave out a bowl of fruit, um, you might find a couple apples missing, or if you put out a bowl of cookies, you might find a couple cookies missing. If you leave out a jar of honey, you might notice that it's becoming less and less in quantity over time, and you haven't been using it very much, and it's just kind of going. Um, they like to they like to have fun. They like to sing and to dance together. I don't know if they spend a lot of time with other fair folk, but when they get together, they like to they like to sing and they like to dance, and they dance in circles, like, you know, fairy rings. And they tend to do this at night. And so if you have them in your house, you might hear things going on in your basement or in a closet or wherever they happen to be. You might hear some stuff, you might hear some singing, you might hear dancing. It might be difficult for you to sleep. um, so just be aware of that they, at nighttime, they like to have fun. They will also clean around your house at night. Um, they are very good about cleaning after themselves, unless they happen to be very upset with you, and then they will mess things up on purpose. Um, and that tends to be with all the fair folk. If they're upset with you, you will know. Um, your house will be impossible to clean. It will just not stay clean. And dishes might go missing. Um, Important items around your house might go missing. Food is going to spoil. The whole, just seems to be a theme that this is how the fair folk let you know that you did something offensive. Um, of course, these are the fair folk that pretty much tolerate human beings, um, or even like being around human beings, have favorable intentions toward human beings. Um, there are, of course, the fair folk that don't want to have anything to do with you, and if you come across them, they will just want to harm you. Um, they don't like to be bothered or see a human being. um, but yeah, the ones that you can work with will generally, if they're upset, things will go missing and your food will spoil and stuff like that. Um, the ones you don't want to work with, they can cause some serious, serious psychological problems. They can cause uh, nightmares. Um, and if you do have psychological problems, then obviously you want to go see a doctor about them. Um, just as common sense. But yeah, if you upset one of the fair folk that don't really like human beings at all, that could be really dangerous. And I will talk about some of the unseelie uh, at a later time. But right now we're talking about house spirits that generally enjoy working with human beings and being nuisances. uh, so the hob will clean around your house and do things like that for you, but they will tend to do this also at night while you're asleep. They don't like to be around while you're up in the house and doing things around the house. Um, they may come around if you are at work and the house is empty during the day, but normally it's at night that they do everything. Um, and I think the Domovoi seems to be different about that and not mind being around human beings while they're awake and doing stuff around the house. But the Hobbs and most of the other house spirits, uh, they they will work for you. They will do things around the house, but they want to do it while you're not around or while you're asleep and aren't going to bother them. Uh, that just tends to be how it works out. I think I'm done with the Hob. There wasn't a whole lot to say. They're very, very similar to brownies, but they seem to be a little bit more domestic, a little bit more house-minded than even the brownie is. The brownie will come and go, and I think enjoys most of the time staying outside the house, um, outside in nature and doing his own thing. The hob seems to me to be more comfortable in the house than the brownie seems to be. Although some people will say that they are the same kind of being, um, or that they are actually the same being with different names. But I think they have a little bit of a difference in their mentality and their manner about being in the house as opposed to being outside. Um, so yeah, that's just my opinion. Other people will say different things. And I wanted to say, oh, the Shoemaker Elves. Okay, I think we all know the Grimm's Brothers fairy tales. If not, you really need to pick up a copy of the book. If you if you want to read some good stuff on the fair folk, I would suggest that you read the Grimm's fairy tales that they collected from Germany. And I do have a copy of a book, Grimm's fairy tales, and that's a believe that is a bad fairy, or it could be a witch. I'm not sure which story this is from. Anyway, this is it. You can get Grimm's fairy tales in all different kinds of forms, but this is the book that I have. The story of the shoemaker elves is that, well, there are generally three of them, sometimes five, but I believe in the original German Grimm's fairy tale, it is three. Um, Three elves, and these are little elves. These are not the Alfar or Tolkien-sized elves. These are little people. Um, they they wear, I believe they wear green and red caps. That seems to be a theme. If they wear all red, you want to stay away from them. All red is very, very bad. When it comes to the fair folk, if you see one that's wearing all red, red shirt, red pants, red hat, just walk the other way. um, yeah, the red man is not your friend. Um, but okay, so the shoemaker elves, they become aware of this old couple who, um, the man is a shoemaker, a cobbler, and he they're very, very poor, and he has his very last piece of unworked leather that he wants to make into a pair of shoes. So he spends his whole day working on this leather, and you have to kind of, bend it and pound on it, and some people chew on it. I don't know. But anyway, you have to make it really soft and flexible before you can do anything with it. It's very hard. So he's like pounding on it and bending on it and doing that the whole day. It takes that long for him to do this. And he's an old man, so I don't know if it actually takes that long for someone who's really healthy to do it, but this old man, it takes him a long time to get this piece of leather all fixed up. And he starts to work on the shoes in the afternoon, but he gets really, really tired because he's been working the whole day, and he decides that, well, these are going to be my last pair of shoes. I want to make them really well, and since they're going to be my last pair of shoes, I don't need to sell them tomorrow. So I'm going to go home and see if there's any food left in the pantry and be with my wife for a little while, because this is really depressing. They don't have much food left, and this is their last pair of shoes to sell, and it doesn't really matter if they sell it tomorrow or the next day. So he goes home, leaves the shoes unfinished, um, and he has a reputation for being a very kind person and taking care of people, and even giving people discounts that they that he really shouldn't have been giving them because he was in this situation. Uh, I would consider him to be overgenerous, but the kind of moral of this story is that if you're an open-hearted, generous person, that the fair folk will take interest in you. That tends to be the moral idea of the story. Um, so these fair folk, they come in and they see this worked leather and the beginnings of shoes, and they're like, huh, that's interesting. I think we can make a pair of shoes. Um, so they go and they have tools and like little needles and little, uh, I really don't know what you use to make shoes, but yeah, they're working on the shoes, and they make really little stitches because they're little people and they can do that. Um, so they make really high quality pair of shoes, and while they're doing this, they're talking to each other and talking about, oh, how we're going to surprise the human, and they're having lots of fun, and variously they're singing or humming or um, just talking to each other and having fun. And right around before dawn, the twilight period, just before dawn, when it's starting to get light but the sun hasn't come out yet, uh, they decide it's time to go. So they're finished with the pair of shoes, and it's an excellent pair of shoes. You can barely see the stitches in them. They've polished the leather. They made it look really, really good for a cheap piece of leather that it was. It looks really good. So they leave just as the old man is coming back into the shop, and he just misses them. So they put the pair of shoes before they left. They put the pair of shoes on his workbench. So he walks in, and that's the first thing he sees is this finished pair of shoes. And he's like, "What happened?" And he's looking around, looking for maybe a note that somebody left, looking for evidence that somebody has been in the area. And he finds this little needle, and he's thinking, "Oh, it must be one of the good people who came by and made these pair of shoes." So he goes and he sells this pair of shoes for a lot more than he thought he could get for it if he had done it himself. And he's able to buy more food for his family and 2 pieces of leather to make shoes. And he works on one bit of leather, and he makes a pair of shoes out of that, and he gives those pair away. That's how generous he is, how open-hearted. I think that's a little bit much, but he gives it away to somebody who can't afford to have shoes at all. Um, and that was not uncommon at the time, that people, if you had shoes, that you were well off, and most people were, at least most people who were poor, did not have the means to have shoes. And so if you had a pair of shoes, that you were very lucky. Um, he, he, he starts working on the second piece of leather, and it's a little bit more easy to work. And he starts making the shoes, and he spends the whole day working on these shoes, trying to make them as good quality as the pair that he had sold. And he just doesn't feel like he can do it. And he goes home tired, and having worked on these shoes the whole day. He goes to his wife, and they have a good meal, and then they go off to sleep. And the next day, same thing happens. They find this really nice pair of shoes on his workbench, and his wife has come with him because she wants to see it too. She's not really sure that he's telling her the truth. Um, so she goes and looks and says, "Oh, this must be the good people. This must be. This isn't. This is. This is. This is Aurora's tale. Hi, Aurora. Hi. Oh, oh, oh. Okay. All right. All right. Hi, Tessa. Okay. Sorry. My dogs. Okay. Don't fight each other, please. No fighting. No fighting. Nope. 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 Hi. Hi. Okay. So she believes him that the good people have come by and made this pair of shoes, and she says, "You know what? I think we should do something for them." And he says, I don't know about that. Um, what would we do?" And she says, "Well, I know that the 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 good people, they like gifts sometimes. We might leave them out a piece of bread or a piece of cheese or something." And he says, "Okay, let's leave out a piece of bread and some cheese." And so they do that, and he sells the shoes again for much more than he would have been able to get himself if he had made them. And this time he's able to do some upgrades in his shop, and get more leather, and be able to give to more people, and to do pretty much everything that they want to do, and they're becoming more well off. Um, so so this time he's like working on 3 or 4 pairs of shoes, because he's got like all the leather he wants for a while, and he's working on them and working on them, and then the night creeps up on him, and he's like, "Oh wow, I didn't even get to go home. I've been working the whole day. Now it's almost night. Oh goodness, maybe the good people will come by." He goes and he hides in a corner of his shop, And of course, the shoemaker elves, they come by and they walk in and they're like, there are three unmade pairs of shoes. They're like, this is going to be a lot of work. And and they're like, well, okay, we don't need to do all that work right now. So let's have some fun. And they're going around looking at all the stuff in this guy's in the man's shop, and he's gotten some new equipment and of course the new leather, and they're like, this is good quality stuff, and they're very happy with themselves. Um, and they're like, we should celebrate. And one of them looks over and finds the bread and cheese on one of the, well, not on the workbench, but on one of the counters or something. Yeah, I think it was on a counter she left it. Anyway, they're like, oh, food. Let's have some fun. So they take the cheese and bread and they're eating, and and then they decide that they want to dance around the area. So they're dancing and having fun, and then finally they get to making the shoes, and they're working on the shoes, and then they finish, just before dawn, like they always do, and they're about to leave, and the man um, steps out as they're leaving, and so they miss each other again. And he goes home to his wife and explains what has happened, and she says, "Oh, that's just wonderful. Um, you know what? I think we should really do something for the elves. I think we should make them a pair of clothing, pairs of clothing." Um, and she is something of a seamstress, so she can make little clothes for them. Because her husband, I believe, told her that they were dressed kind of shabbily, um, in tattered clothing, and she wants to make them some nice clothes. So she makes them red shirts, no, green shirts, green pants, and red caps. That's what they wear. So she makes it, and then she's like, "I want to be there. I want to go with you to the shop, and I want to see them." And he's like, "Oh, okay, but we have to be quiet because the good people, they don't like a lot of attention." She's like, "Okay, I'll be very quiet." And they go in to the shop, and they go hide in a corner, and they wait. And right around just before it gets dark, the good people, the elves, they come by, and they come peeking in and checking things, and the the woman has left the clothing for the three elves. Um, I believe it is near the workbench. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But so she leaves it there, and they're looking around, and they see that there are no shoes, no leather, no partially made shoes, and they're like, huh, we don't have anything to do here. Well, maybe we should just leave. And they said, well, before we leave, let's do some singing and dancing and having fun. We don't have anything to do here. So they did that. They dance around and they're singing to themselves about how they make shoes and how hardworking they are and how they're helping uh, the little old man and the little old lady. And one of them, while he's twirling around in circles with the others, looks over and sees the clothing, and he stops. And he says, look, look at that pretty clothes. And they're like, oh, wow, wow, look at those. And they're like, that's just, ooh, look at the red caps, and look at this green shirt. And one of them says, well, let's try them on. And they like go over and just like, well, are you sure these are for us? Of course they're for us. They're exactly our size. And so they go over and they put on the clothes, and they're like dancing around and having fun and singing. And they're like, we're not going to make another pair of shoes ever again. We have our pretty clothes, and we're finished. And then after all of that, it starts to become light outside just before dawn, and they're like, okay, I think it's time that we go now, before the human people come in and see us. And they're like, oh, we don't. Some of them are like, oh, we don't even care who sees us now. Look at our pretty clothes. And the others are like, no, I really think we should go now. And we don't want to be seen. But all the other good people are going to be so jealous that we have new clothes, and we don't ever have to come back here. We don't ever have to work again. And so they go off, and they never come back to and they never come back to the shop, and then they never make shoes ever again, because they have this new pair of clothing, and they have everything they want in life, and they don't have to work for anything anymore. And that's the end of that story. So yeah, uh, there seems to be a theme about offering clothing across all for all the house spirits, um, and I think it is the shoemaker elves that most remind me of Dobby, although Hobbs are also called Mr. Dobbs or Dobbies, so there are more than one Dobby. um, but the shoemaker elves always remind me of Dobby, and working around the house and doing things, and then being offered clothing, and then they can go off and do whatever they want. I know it's a theme just across the board, but yeah, I just wanted to share that. And I think this is the end, and this has turned out to be a very long video, but I think I'm finished. I'm going to be doing different videos in the future. I'm going to go over some of the books on the fair folk that I have with you, and I'm going to do hopefully a few video responses to some other topics that have been going on in the community recently. One on miracles, I believe, was from Pagan Perspective. I want to do a video response to that. And also there was one on the Divine Feminine. And there are a couple on the Fair Folk that I want to do some responses to. And also I'm going to show you some of my crystals, some of them, because I have a whole bunch of them. And I wanted to show you a few other things. So I'll get to all of that sometime. Maybe I'll make another video today, maybe not. We'll see. Um, if I make another video today, I think it's just going to be with my books. So that's it for now, and I will say goodbye, and all stars shine on your paths.